Hello and welcome to the Boot Room. Andy Warren and Stuart Watson here to look ahead to Ipswich Town's League One clash away at Portsmouth. Stu, fans of both of these teams would be expecting this to be a top of the table promotion chasers battle at this point in the season. Instead, it's 12th against 15th on a Tuesday night in October, but it's a game that's got plenty of meaning for both sides and plenty of intriguing subplots rippling through it. This one, isn't it?
Yeah, shall I rattle through a few of those? We've got Paul Cook going back to Fratton Park as Ipswich manager for the first proper time. He went back there last season when Ipswich lost, but obviously that was in the COVID era of no fans. So we'll see what sort of reception he gets from the Fratton Park faithful. I think Fratton Park under the lights is always a good occasion. It's always I'll always remember when Portsmouth was sinking towards Championship relegation, when the wheels well and truly were coming off there. Their fans staying for 2+ hours after the final whistle, singing their hearts out. Two teams that are scoring lots, conceding lots, are in major transition after a big turnover of players in the summer. And going right to the start of what you said, two teams that desperately need to start winning some games. Okay, Ipswich have lost only one of their last 7 and have just started to come together, but disappointing weekend with the drop points against Cambridge and Portsmouth. 1 win in 11 now for them, and that win was a 4-0 thrashing of Sunderland, bizarrely. So I really don't know what to expect from this game, which I guess is nerve-wracking and exciting in equal measure.
The thing I would expect would be goals. You say Portsmouth beat Sunderland 4-0. They lost 4-1 to Rotherham at the weekend, and we know Ipswich are specialists in high scoring draws at the moment. Another 2-2 at Cambridge at the weekend, so no doubt this will now be a 0-0. But going into it, it should be an entertaining one, shouldn't it? Between two teams with some good players, two managers that actually both sets of fans know pretty well, without it ever coming to pass that he's managed this club. Ipswich fans know all about Danny Cowley. Portsmouth fans clearly know all about Paul Cook. So it's one that both sets of supporters will be really up for. And then you have to consider everything that happened in the summer between these two teams. There's players in the Portsmouth side, in Morel in midfield, and Michael Jacobs, of course, who's on the fringes of the Portsmouth team, but was in the building at Ipswich to complete a move before Kyle Edwards did. Connor Chaplin in the Ipswich side, former Portsmouth player. So many individuals involved in this game with little points to prove, and that usually adds up to something quite good.
Hopefully, yeah. Ryan Tunnicliffe as well, a player that was on loan at Ipswich, going a little bit further back. Morel, obviously, Ipswich tried to kind of pinch him at the last minute, and he obviously ended up picking Portsmouth. And the Portsmouth fans sort of labelling Ipswich Checkbook FC in the summer as Ipswich were putting their squad together, and that was obviously put to Cook and Co at one of the fans' forums, and that was a little thing for a while, wasn't it? So. Yeah, plenty of intrigue around this game, but ultimately it's about trying to get the win for Ipswich, putting all that to one side, because we keep saying they need to build some positive momentum, and they take one step forward and then it's another couple of steps back, and lots of good stuff happening for Ipswich, but plenty to iron out as well, especially being able to see out games, manage games when they're in front, because they've done that plenty of times, but we're a quarter of the way into the season now, and if we're not careful, a few more games slip by, and then the damage becomes that little bit worse to overcome. So, yeah, looking forward to this.
Yeah, this is a gateway to a group of another dozen games after it, which includes 2 matches with Sunderland, 2 matches with Wycombe, a game with Wigan, a game at Plymouth against the leaders. So we're going to learn an awful lot about this Ipswich side. We maybe wanted to see a bit more of them by this stage, but we're going to learn an awful lot about them over the next dozen games or so. Stuart, we normally Boot Room's all about having a little look at what side we think Paul Cook is going to put out. It's not a particularly easy task. He's a manager that clearly doesn't want to give an awful lot away today. That was in evidence again this morning. He was asked about Lee Evans returning to the side after his partner gave birth at the weekend, and would Joe Pigott be available after the sad passing of his father? The short answer is We don't know who is available. We don't know if Christian Walton is fit again. We don't know if Hayden Coulson is fit to go again. There was suggestions a week or so ago that those two might be coming into the consideration. So how are we going to go about naming our predicted Ipswich side for this game?
I think Paul Cook's proven that excuse me, he won't make knee-jerk reactions to disappointments in games. We saw that after the Accrington game, that the team that had beaten Doncaster 6-0 played again at Accrington, really poor performance. But Cook made it clear that if I make 1 or 2 or 3 changes to that team, it's almost like I'm pinning it on them. So I don't think he'll go mad with the changes. But that said, he did say going into this 3-game week that he would utilise his squad. So a little bit of freshening up, but not wholesale changes. I don't know if you want to have a stab at the team.
I'm gonna have a stab. I'm gonna take some liberties and assume some people are fit and assume that some others are not. I'm going to start with the goalkeeper, and this may be wrong straight off the bat, but I'm going to say that I think Christian Walton might come back into the side for this game. I think he's the man that Paul Cook wants between his sticks. I'll run you through a team, Stu, and you can pick me up on some things as we go. So I think Janoy Dynastian will continue, George Edmondson will continue, and I think Cameron Burgess will continue as well. Maybe a few question marks about him, but I think there's a way to go before anything changes there. I think Matt Penny is probably going to continue as the left back, so that's an unchanged back four. I think Lee Evans will come back into the side with Sam Morsey. I think that's what Paul Cook wants, and I think Macaulay Bonne will obviously start up top. But as always, the 3 behind him are the intrigue. I think Wes Burns will come back in. I think he was maybe rested with this game in mind. He'll come back in. I think Connor Chaplin is beginning to nail down that number 10 spot. I think he'll go again, and that just leaves one vacancy. Sonny Aluko scored 2 at the weekend. You do well to drop him after that, but you've got Bersant Selina and Kyle Edwards sitting on the bench. My gut feeling is that he'll go Bersant Selina in this game and leave a man who's just scored twice out of his side. Could be miles off it, but that's what I'm going. Where do you want to pick me up on that?
I've got something pretty much the same team written down here. Sorry, Andy, I'm coughing away. Walton or Coulson could be surprise starters, but beyond that, I agree with everything in the defensive and midfield sections of the team. It's a bold man to leave out a 2-goal player, isn't it? But Aluko hasn't played a lot of football up until the weekend. Portsmouth played with wing backs, so I do wonder whether Burns with those Achilles issues was held back for this game to give you sort of the chance of some overloads down the flanks. Edwards or Selina on the left. I do think this might be a game where Fraser dips out potentially, but I agree with you. Chaplin has to keep going. I thought he was one of their better players at the weekend. So yeah, I'll go with Selina as well. I'm not going to argue with you too much on that team, Andy.
Solid. Well, I'm sure it'll be completely different come 6:45 on Tuesday evening. Anyone in the Portsmouth side that you're particularly interested to watch play, Stu? We've picked out a few already. We talked about Tunnicliffe, who obviously many will remember from his time here. Ipswich very familiar with Sean Raggett at the back of for Portsmouth. Jacobs unlikely to start. He would be one that I'd be very interested to see how he handled a game against a club that he surely thought he would be joining, against a manager that clearly had him before at Wigan. He's unlikely to play. But anyone in particular that you're looking forward to seeing or fearing in the Portsmouth ranks?
I always remember the goalkeeper, Gavin Bazunu, standing out for Rochdale when he was on loan there. He's now gone to Portsmouth from Manchester City, the young Republic of Ireland international. So, yeah, he's one that's stuck in my mind from before. In terms of a danger man, Ronan Curtis, I think is the one for me. It looks like he's playing a bit more centrally. We've kind of seen him as a left winger before now. I think he's playing as one of 2 strikers. He missed the game at the weekend through a 1-game suspension. So he'd be the danger man for me. A lot of this Portsmouth team has changed since we last saw them, but that sort of front 3 of Curtis, Harness, Marquise is still in place. So it's a team that looks like it's got goals in it on paper.
As do Ipswich, and that leads us on nicely to the final part of Boot Room, which is always the prediction. Full disclosure, Stuart and I have been talking about this game all day. We've recorded a podcast talking about this game already today. We know that we're going to both be predicting the same 2-2 draw from this game. That is, unless Stu, you've changed your mind in the intervening period.
No, I've got to stick with it. Ipswich's 2-2 at Cambridge at the weekend was their fourth 2-2 draw of the season. Portsmouth have had two 2-2 draws themselves. I think you said earlier, if you with your fictional betting pot for a feature on the podcast, that you predicted 4 goals or more. 6 times that's happened with Ipswich. 5 times it's happened with Portsmouth. So you'd imagine this isn't going to be 0-0. Famous last words.
And that's the perfect way to end it. 0-0 draw incoming, I'm sure. Thanks for watching, and follow the game with us live on Tuesday night. Here's hoping for another 3 points for Ipswich Town on their climb up the League One table.